कृतवान् तत् रेकार्डिङ्ग्।
अस्तु अस्तु।
तत्
अ, ओ सम्यक्। अद्यापि भवतः ये अंशाः सन्ति, ये अभिप्रायाः सन्ति, तत् प्रकटीकरोतु।
मम वाक् सम्यक् एव श्रूयते वा? ह्यस्तनकक्षायाः रेकार्डिङ्ग् दृष्टवान् अहं।
हम्म।
मम वाक् सम्यक् नासीत् इत्युक्ते
किञ्चित् उच्चै
इत्यादि
किञ्चित् उच्चैः।
क्लेशाः सन्ति तत्र।
आम् आम्। किञ्चित् उच्चैः वचनीयम्।
इदानीं कथमस्ति?
एतद् सुष्ठुतरम्।
इदानीं मैक्रोफोन् मुखे मुखस्य पार्श्वे
अस्तु अस्तु।
किम् वक्तव्यं कथं वदेत्?
मुखनिकटे एव अस्ति, मुखारविन्दे एव।
हा,
अस्तु, समीचीनम्।
परिमितं किमपि नास्ति। अस्तु तदेव।
हम्म। स्वागतं सर्वेभ्यः। इदानीम् आरम्भं कुर्मः।
गायत्री प्रारम्भं कुर्मः।
आ
प्रस्तुतवान् वा?
किं भोः?
लह्रीं प्रारम्भं कुर्मः इत्युक्तवान्।
लहरीम्, आम् आम् सत्यं, सौन्दर्यलहरीम् आरम्भं कुर्मः। अस्तु, गतकक्ष्यायां वयं पञ्चश्लोकान् अचर्चयाम। अद्य पुनश्च इतरांश्च श्लोकान् विमर्शयामहे। ध्यानश्लोकेन सह आरम्भं कुर्मः। भूमौ स्खलितपादानां भूमिरेवावलम्बनम् त्वयि जातापराधानां त्वमेव शरणं शिवे। गतश्लोकान् सकृत् गायाम। शिवशक्त्या युक्तो यदि भवति शक्तः प्रभवितुम् न चेदेवं देवो न खलु कुशलः स्पन्दितुमपि। अतस्त्वामाराध्यां हरिहरविरिञ्चादिभिरपि प्रणन्तुं स्तोतुं वा कथमकृतपुण्यः प्रभवति। तनीयां सम्पांसुं तव चरणपङ्केरुहभवम् विरिञ्चिः सञ्चिन्वन् विरचयति लोकानविकलम्। वहत्येनं शौरिः कथमपि सहस्रेण शिरसाम् हरः संक्षुध्यैनं भजति भसितोद्धूलनविधिम्। अविद्यानामन्तस्तिमिरमिहिरद्वीपनगरी जडानां चैतन्यस्तबकमकरन्दश्रुतिझरी दरिद्राणां चिन्तामणिगुणनिका जन्मजलधौ निमग्नानां दंष्ट्रा मुररिपुवराहस्य भवति। त्वदन्यः पाणिभ्यामभयवरदो दैवतगणः त्वमेका नैवासि प्रकटितवराभीत्यभिनया भयात्रातुं दातुं फलमपि च वाञ्छा समधिकम् शरण्ये लोकानां तव हि चरणावेव निपुणौ हरिस्त्वामाराध्य प्रणतजनसौभाग्यजननीम् पुरानारी भूत्वा पुररिपुमपि क्षोभमनयत् स्मरोऽपि त्वान्नत्वा रतिनयनलेह्येन वपुषा मुनीनामप्यन्तः प्रभवति हि मोहाय महताम्। धनुः पौष्पं मौर्वी मधुकरमयी पञ्चविशिखाः वसन्तः सामन्तो मलयमरुदायो धनरथः तथाप्येकः सर्वं हिमगिरिसुते कामपि कृपाम् अपाङ्गात्ते लब्ध्वा जगदिदमनङ्गो विजयते क्वणत्काञ्चीदामा करिकलभकुम्भस्तननता परीक्षीणा मध्ये परिणतशरच्चन्द्रवदना धनुर्बाणान् पाशं सृणिमपि दधाना करतलैः पुरस्तादास्तां नः पुरमथितुराहो पुरुषिका अत्र वयं गतकक्ष्यां स्थगितवन्तः आस्म। अत्र पुनश्च अहं चिन्तयन् आसम् एतं श्लोकं क्वणत् काञ्चीदाम इत्यादि वर्णनेषु न केवलं देव्याः शरीरवर्णनम् अस्ति, अपि तु कुण्डलिनी चक्र म्, परिणीत्या चर्चयामः चेत् तत्र दामा is a girdle around the waist. तत्र यत्र स्वाधिष्ठानचक्रं वर्तते, स्वाधिष्ठानचक्रं तदस्ति इति। पुनश्च करिकलभकुम्भस्तननता इत्यादि वर्णनेन अनाहतचक्रस्य at the level of the chest is the अनाहत चक्र। परीक्षीणा मध्ये, मध्ये अर्थात एब्डोमेन, तत्र अग्निचक्रम अथवा सूर्यचक्रम यत् मणिपूरचक्रम वर्तते। पश्चाच्च परिणत शरच्चन्द्रवदना, परिणत शरच्चन्द्रवदना इति कृत्वा मुखं द्योत्यते। तत्तु मुखे आज्ञाचक्रं वर्तते। एवं एते चतुष्टय चक्र परिमितं योगसाधनं या कृतवती अस्ति सा देवी चतुर्षु हस्तेषु चतुर्षु दोषु धनुः, बाणान्, पाशम् अपि च सृणिम् एतान् आयुधान् दधाना, करतलैः दधाना अस्माकं पुरतः आगत्य उपविशतु इति अत्र वर्णनं दत्तम्। ईदृशी देवी या स्वस्य करतलैः करकमलैः भुक्तिं मुक्तिं च दातुं शक्नोति, अपि च अस्मान् इन्द्रियान् पराकर्तुम् अथवा विमुखीकर्तुम्, she can turn the senses towards the objects or away from the objects. आहारः प्रत्याहारः एतौ द्वावपि विधौ विधि कर्तुं समर्था अस्ति देवी इति वयं ह्यः अपि चर्चितवन्तः। ईदृशा देवी या शिवस्य अर्धांगिनी, या शिवस्य अथवा परमपुरुषस्य स्त्री स्वरूपेण आगता, स्त्री अवतरिता अस्ति, या च पुरमथितुः, या च पुरमथनस्य अर्थात् त्रिपुरसंहारकस्य तुरा, तुरा अर्थात् शक्तिः अपि अस्ति इति अत्रापि अर्थः ग्राह्यते। पुनश्च यत्र यत्र त्रिपुरसंहार सन्दर्भो विवर्ण्यते तत्र त्रिपुरं यथा च त्रिपुर सुन्दरी इत्यादि शब्देषु अपि यत् शब्द्यते त्रिपुरं नाम वेदांत दृष्ट्या यदा पश्यामः तर्हि स्थूलशरीरं, सूक्ष्मशरीरं, कारणशरीरम् इति शरीरत्रयं पुरम् इति कथ्यन्ते। नवद्वारे पुरे देहि नैव कुर्वन्न कारयन् इति वाक्येनापि भगवद्गीता वाक्येनापि ज्ञायते एतत् पुरशब्दः शरीरद्योतकः इति देहद्योतकः यः अस्माकं त्रिपुटीं शरीरत्रयं समाहरत् यः विनाशितवान् सः एव शिवः इति सोऽपि अर्थः ग्राह्यः अर्थः अस्ति अस्तु एतत् चर्चयित्वा पुनश्च अग्रे सराम if you are able to see the screen you will find this very famous image of Tripura Mahatripura Sundari एषः श्लोकः एतं चित्रं वर्णयति Are you able to see the screen?
Next, you are unable to see picture.
Oh, अस्तु इदानीं दृश्यते किम्?
आमाम्
यत् चित्रम् अत्र महात्रिपुरसुन्दरी इति यत् चर्चितं यत् स्वरूपं यद् रूपं च वर्णितं तत् अस्मिन् श्लोके विवर्ण्यते सुधा सिन्धोर्मध्ये सुरविटपि वाटी परिवृते मणिद्वीपे नीपोपवनवति चिन्तामणिगृहे शिवाकारे मञ्चे परमशिवपर्यङ्कनिलयां भजन्ति त्वां धन्याः कतिचन चिदानन्दलहरी एषा महात्रिपुरसुन्दरी कुत्र अस्ति सा सुधा सिन्धोः मध्ये in the ocean of sudha amritam iti sudha अमृतस्य सागरे सुधा सिन्धोर् मध्ये सुरविटपि वाटी परिवृते विटपि अर्थात अरण्यम स्वर्गारण्यम अस्ति यत् कदम्बवनम इति कथ्यते तत् सुरविटपि this entire jungle which is present in the Swarga is like a vati, it's like a garden to her. She is not afraid of the Aranyam. She has turned it into a garden. Yat Kadamba Vanam Asti Swarge. Tatra. So there is the island of Suravitapi surrounded by the Sudha Sindhu. Sudha Sindhor Madhye Suravitapi Vati Parivrate. Manidvipe. The name of this island is Manidvipe. Upanavati Chinta Manigrihe. So there is a griha which is made up of Chintamani. Just imagine. It's a gem-studded house. The entire building that she lives in, this palace, is made of only Chintamani, the wish-fulfilling gem. So every single particle of this palace is made of Chintamani Grihe. Kim chatata? Manidvipe Nipa Upavanavati. Upavana is another garden. She is living in a smaller backyard or courtyard, you could say. Upavanavati, which is surrounding the palace. Nipa is grass. So she has a small courtyard or backyard surrounding her palace, like a moat, and inside which is the palace of Manidvipa, the Chintamani Grihe. And now look at the image. Shivakare manche parama shiva paryanka nilayam. Tasyaha paryankam. What is she sitting on? Kutra upavishati? Sa paryanke upavishati. She is sitting on a cot. Shivakare manche, and the cot is Shiva himself. Shiva kare manche Parama Shiva Paryanka Nilayam. And Parama Shiva has himself become the mattress on which she is sitting. Parama Shiva Paryanka Nilayam. Bhajanti Tvam Dhanyaha Katichana Chidananda Laharim. Tvam Aradhyam Bhajanti. People worship you. Tvam evam bhajanti. They worship you in such a form. Tvam bhajanti. Tvam dhanyaha. Ke bhajanti. Those who worship you are dhanyaha. They are blessed indeed. Bhajanti tvam dhanyah katichana eva. And it is not that everybody will start worshipping you. It is only katipaya janaha eva. Katichana janaha eva. Bhavatim not worshipayanti. It is pujayanti. Katichana chidananda laharim. Tvam bhajanti. And what are you? You are chid ananda lahari. You are the wave. You are the manifested wave of chit and ananda. Awareness and bliss, awareness and joy, awareness and happiness. You are the very embodiment of the waves of Paramashiva, emanating these waves of awareness and joy. So you who are Chidananda Laharim, in this form that you are being the Chidananda Lahari, only Katichana Janaha Bhajanti. And those who worship you will become Dhanyaha.
Mhodaya, awareness and joy tina. Awareness that is joy.
Awareness that is joy. Correct. Yeah, that's Satyam. Awareness which is synonymous with joy. Chit eva anandam eva satcha. Sadhu. अपि च ह्यः त्रिविक्रममहोदयः एकं सुष्ठु विषयं निरूपितवान् यत् सौन्दर्यलहरी चिदानन्दलहरी इति शब्दे अपि एको मन्त्रः गूहितो अस्ति. What is that mantra which is hidden in that? So if you see the word lahari, laharim, bhajanti tvam dhanyaha katichana chidananda laharim. So,
महोदय, भवान् लिखति वा?
आम्.
अत्र नैव दृश्यते. अत्र केवलं त्रिपुरेश्वर्याः चित्रं दृश्यते.
ओ एवं किम्? अस्तु अस्तु. I should have shared the entire screen. I was writing it all this while. Okay. अस्तु तर्हि वीडियो मध्ये पश्यामः. लहरीम् इति शब्दस्य हरीम् इति सः अति समीचीनं निगूढं रहस्यं एतं निगूढं रहस्यम् उपोद्घाटितवान् आसीत्. ह्रीम् इति बीजमन्त्रमस्ति. अयं बीजमन्त्रः देव्याः एव. So Hrinkara Garbhitanala and so on is the Dhyana shloka, how it begins for the Khatgamala Stotram. So Hrim is also called as the Stri Pranavam. It's called as the Stri Pranava or Devi Pranavaha. It is told to be equivalent in its power and potency with Om, which is called the Pranava. Therefore, the name Stri Pranava or the feminine form of the Pranava is said to be Hrim. Aneke dhanyavadaha. Thank you for pointing this out. Really, really interesting. Astu. So, okay, let me just quickly draw the image, at least what I was drawing back then. Sudha Sindhor Madhye Sura Vitapi Vati Parivrite Manidvipe Nipa Upavana Manidvipe Nipa Upavanavati Chintamani Grihe Shiva-akare manche. So now here there are two usages of the word Shiva. The first Shiva refers to all these four manifestations of Shiva, which is Srishtikarakaha Prajapatihi, Sthitikarakaha Mahavishnu, Samharakarakaha Rudraha, Tirodhanakarakaha Ishanaha. Ete सर्गचतुष्टयम् इति कथ्यते एतस्य सर्गचतुष्टयम् द फोर फोल्ड you could say creation fourfold creators so to speak Shiva akare manche who have themselves become the legs of the bed Shivakare manche Parama Shiva Paryanka Nilayam Bhajanti Tvam Dhanyah Katichana Chidananda Lahari. So now that we have done the Dhyana, this is also an equivalent of the Dhyana Shloka of Lalita Mahatripura Sundari. Would anybody like to make any remarks, observations? Please feel free to do so.
ललिता त्रिपुरसुन्दरी वा बाला त्रिपुरसुन्दरी वा इति प्रश्नः उत्पन्नः मम मनसि
Bala Tripura Sundari too. Okay, let me find that.
खलु अत्र श्लोके तु नैव दृश्यते
तस्याः आकारस्तु अस्ति किन्तु प्राचुर्ये तावत् नास्ति. If you are able to see the screen, I mean, there are a few images. Sometimes she is equated with Kanyakumari for it being Bala. Is the screen visible? दृश्यते किम्? बाला त्रिपुर बाला मन्त्रः अपि भिन्नः अस्ति. षोडशाक्षरी मन्त्रः अथवा पञ्चदशाक्षरी मन्त्रः अपि भिन्नः एव. किन्तु एतस्याः सान्दर्भिकी सूचना अस्ति ललितासहस्रनाम्ने नाम्नि अपि नामस्तोत्रे अपि यत्र च लेट् मी जस्ट पुल दैट अप ललिता सहस्रनामस्तोत्रम् यत्र यदा ललिता त्रिपुरसुन्दरी भण्डासुरस्य वधं कर्तुम् उद्युक्ता भवति तदा तस्याः सैन्ये बाला अपि उदेति. So if we just find that exact words, Bhandaputra Vadhodyukta Bala Vikrama Nandita. So this particular verse first speaks of this manifestation of Lalita in the form of her daughter, who is said to be who is called as Bala. Ya Bhandasya Putram Vadham Kartum Udyukta Abhavat iti. Bhandaputra Vadhodyukta Bala Vikrama Nandita. But speaking about the tradition, Paramparanusaram, most people are first initiated into the Bala mantra, also called the Bala Tripura Sundari mantra, and then into the actual Sri Vidya mantra. So Bala is like, as the name suggests, it's like a beginner friendly, less side effect to holding mantra. And her description is slightly different. It is not described in the Soundarya Lahari. अन्ये केचन वक्तुमिच्छन्ति? अस्तु. नवमं श्लोकं पठामः. महीं मूलाधारे कमपि मणिपूरे हुतवहं स्थितं स्वाधिष्ठाने हृदि मरुतमाकाशमुपरि मनोऽपि भ्रूमध्ये सकलमपि भित्त्वा कुलपथम् सहस्रारे पद्मे सहरहसि पत्या विहरसे. पुनश्च अत्र एकं चित्रेण सहैव एतत् वर्णनं सम्यक् अवगम्यते. एषः श्लोकः देवीं कुंडलिनी शक्ति द्वारा निरूपिता निरूपयति Mahim Mooladhare. In the Mooladhara, that is at the base chakra, as you can see here. Mahim Mooladhare. What is the element she manifests there as? Mahi. Mahi ityukte Prithivi. Mahim Mooladhare. Kam api Manipure Hutavaham Sthitam Swadhishthane. Atra Kam. Kam here refers to water. When you say Kamandala, right? So ka is the mantra. It's not a bija mantra, but it is the word representing water, whereas kha represents space. Kam kham. Kam is water. Kam api manipure hutavaham sthitam swadhishthane. Hutavaha is agni. Sthitam swadhishthane. Hridi marutam. Marut is vayu, is air. Akasham upari. Akasha is space. Manopi bhru madhye, and when that same energy reaches the Kundalini, I mean the Ajna, it becomes Manas. Manopi bhru madhye, Sakalam api bhitva. Having traversed through all of these chakras, Sakalam api bhitva kulapatham. Kulapatha is the path of the kula. Kula here refers to the energy which flows within us. So this path, also called as Sushumna, Kulapatham bhitva, she aggressively cuts through all these doors. She barges through all these doors and Kulapatham bhitva, Sahasrare Padme, in the Padma, in the Sahasrara Padma, the Sahasradala Padma of Sahasrara, Sahasrare Padme, Saha Rahasi. Rahasi means in private, incognito mode, in private. Rahasi Patya Saha Viharase. Patya Saha, along with her husband, which her spouse, which is Shiva, which is Parama Shiva. Viharase, you sport, you revel, you engage yourself in frolicking and canoodling with your husband. That is the literal meaning. So what is it talking about? Ya Devi अस्माकं मूल आधारे, अस्माकं मूलाधार चक्रे मही पृथ्वी तत्वेन वर्तते. अस्माकं स्वाधिष्ठान चक्रे कम अथवा जल रूपेण वर्तते. या च देवी मणिपूर चक्रे अग्नि रूपेण, हृदये अनाहत चक्रे तु वायु रूपेण, विशुद्धि चक्रे आकाश रूपेण, आज्ञा चक्रे मनो रूपेण च व्यक्ता भवति. तत्सर्वमपि व्यज्य, after having manifested through all of these chakras in the respective elements, यदा सा शक्तिः उदेति सहस्रार पर्यन्तं, तदानीं ब्रह्मात्मैक्य स्वरूपिणी शिवशक्त्यैक्य रूपिणी इति यत् नाम वर्तते ललिता सहस्रनाम स्तोत्रे, तथा जीव ईश्वर जीव ब्रह्म आत्मैक्यं sadhayati esha shaktihi. So when this Kundalini energy which rises from the basal chakra, manifesting through the different elements and their respective dominions and their desires thereof, when it does reach the Sahasrara chakra, she engages completely, she dissolves herself completely with her spouse, so to speak, which is Parama Shiva, and thus exuding this Lasya Rasa. Lasya is the dance of joy, the dance of sport, which is called Lasya, and therefore that Ananda which is exuding from the Sahasrara flows down through the body, thus purifying the entire Sharira. If you remember from the previous discussion of Shivananda Lahari, there was a very similar verse. Bhakto bhakti gunavrite mudamrita purne prasanne manaha kumbhe sambatavangri pallava yugam samsthapya samvit phalam सत्वं मन्त्रमुदीरयन् निज शरीरागार शुद्धिं वहन् पुण्याहं प्रकटीकरोमि पुण्याहं प्रकटीकरोमि भवतः कल्याणमापादयन्, or something to that effect. So he says how this entire energy, when it upwells and swells up in the body and reaches the Sahasrara, it is compared to the ritual of doing punyaha, where this water, which is this energy, when it has come forth, when it has boiled up to reach the Sahasrara, which is denoted by the phala, samvit phalam, the phala of consciousness, this abundant mass of consciousness, of awareness, then the entire, it exudes amrita, turns that water into amrita, which then purifies agara shuddhim vahan, it purifies the entire body. And each of these cells, this joy permeates each and every nook and corner of the body, each and every cell of the body, thus making it dance in exuberant joy, which is called lasya, which is what the shloka also here says, patya saha viharase. And in that very equivalent shloka, it says, kalyanam apadayan. Because I did this punyaha so that the Parvati within me, the Sati within me, can get wedded to Shiva, that is you, who are residing in the Sahasrara. Lots of similarity between these two Laharis, Shivananda and Soundarya Lahari. Do you guys remember from last class? Anybody who was there in that session? Astu. Is this clear? Any questions? Would anybody like to comment? And we have at great length talked about the chakras in one of our previous videos. Let me just share the link of what these tattvas, what these elements mean in the actual body. Maybe I'll find that video out and share it. We had discussed this very same thing even in the Lalita Sahasranama, if you remember, maybe in the 97th verse onwards. From here. विशुद्धिचक्रनिलया रक्तवर्णा त्रिलोचना खट्वाङ्गादिप्रहरणा वदनैकसमन्विता पायसान्नप्रिया त्वक्स्था पशुलोकभयङ्करी अमृतादिमहाशक्तिसंवृता डाकिनीश्वरी अनाहताब्जनिलया श्यामा भवदनद्वया दंष्ट्रोज्ज्वलाक्षमालादिधरा रुधिरसंस्थिता कालरात्र्यादिशक्त्यौघवृता स्निग्धौदनप्रिया महावीरेन्द्रवरदा राकिण्यम्बा स्वरूपिणी मणिपूराब्जनिलया वदनत्रयसंयुता वज्रादिकायुधोपेता डामर्यादिभिरावृता रक्तवर्णा मांसनिष्ठा गुडान्नप्रीतमानसा समस्तभक्तसुखदा लाकिन्यम्बा स्वरूपिणी स्वाधिष्ठानाम्बुजगता चतुर्वक्त्रमनोहरा शूलाद्यायुधसम्पन्ना पीतवर्णातिगर्विता मेधोनिष्ठा मधुप्रीता बन्धिन्यादिसमन्विता दध्यन्नासक्तहृदया काकिनी रूपधारिणी मूलाधाराम्बुजारूढा पञ्चवक्त्रास्थिसंस्थिता अंकुशादिप्रहरणा वरदादिनिषेविता मुद्गौदनासक्तचित्ता साकिन्यम्बा स्वरूपिणी आज्ञाचक्राब्जनिलया शुक्लवर्णा षडानना मज्जासंस्था हंसवती मुख्यशक्तिसमन्विता हरिद्रान्नैकरसिका हाकिनी रूपधारिणी सहस्रदलपद्मस्था सर्ववर्णोपशोभिता सर्वायुधधरा शुक्लसंस्थिता सर्वतोमुखी सर्वोदनप्रीतचित्ता याकिन्यम्बा स्वरूपिणी. So all of these, however, this is actually describing it in a descending manner. So it starts off with Vishuddhi and then Anahata Manipura, Swadhisthana, Mooladhara, and then once again comes back to Ajna Chakra and then the Sahasrara. So, anyhow, the entire tattva, as is described here and as we have already discussed earlier, is very represented and hinted at through this shloka. Yes, somebody wanted to share their views. Okay. Now, the very next shloka talks about what we were just discussing of this. So, first is the ascent. From ninth shloka is talking about how she is ascending through the Kulapatha, through all the chakras and reaching Sahasrara. So, this is the idea of devolution, as Paramahamsa Yogananda put it, where from the most grossest element, which is earth, which is material, which is the mundane pursuits, the energy and desire and the mind, the consciousness is rising up into subtle and subtle and subtle chakras, that is, subtle and subtle domains, unraveling all these different possibilities which are hidden within us, potentialities, and reaching the ultimate. And now, after reaching and she has rejoiced with her spouse, what does she then do? She, like I said, she is dancing and exuding the Amrita. It is like a rain, Viharati, Satyam. And now that Amrita Rasa is being described in this next verse. Sudhadhara saraischarana-yugalantar-vigalitaihi prapancham sinchanti punarapi rasamnaya mahasah avapya swam bhumim bhujaganibhamadhyushtavalayam स्वमात्मानं कृत्वा स्वपिशिकुलकुण्डे कुहरिणी सुधाधारा सारैः with streams and jets of rain, not just droplets, but jets and jets of rain cascading down from the Sahasrara. Charana Yugala, if you remember again from last class, Charana, feet always represents, it's a euphemism for the Sahasrara. So Charana Yugala Antarvigalitaihi, that which has emanated out from between the feet or the last chakra. What is it doing? Prapancham Sinchanti, both within the body, that is Pindande, as well as in the macrocosm, which is in the Brahmanda. She is sprinkling this joy onto the Prapancha, onto Jagat. And one other interesting thing to note here is in Samskritam, Pancha is of course 5. Prapancha is that which is made of the 5 elements. If you remember, these 5 chakras, lower chakras, were the 5 elements, and Prapancha is something which is along with Prakrishtam Pancham, Prakrishtam Pancha, which is something added with the Pancha, which is basically the Manas. So all these 6 are being wetted, they are being drowned in the cascades of Amrita, which are being sprinkled from above. Punaha api rasa amnaya mahasaha, and then she starts her journey back from the mahas. Mahas again is light. It literally means light, the big light. That is what mahas means. Rasa amnaya, and this abode from which rasa emerges. Raso Vaisaha is what the Taittiriya Upanishad says when it is describing the last and the final sheath, the Anandamaya Kosha. It says Raso Vaisaha. This sheath itself is comprised of a liquid of Ananda, which is, it is engaged in Spandanam. And this Rasa, Amnaya means an abode. Rasamnaya Mahasaha. Here Mahasa is Panchami Vibhakti. From there, Tasmat, Avapya Swam Bhumim. She climbs down the same path And Swam Bhumim. She reaches back her original Bhumi, her Taurmane, as we say in Kannada, her mother's house. Where is that? It is below the Mooladhara. So Bhumim, and of course, if you remember, the Mooladhara also has the Prithvi Tattva, which is why the pun here of Bhumim. Swam Bhumim Bhujaga Nibham. Just as the serpent, after it has shown its hood, it retracts its hood and it follows a serpentine path back to its burrow. Bhujaga Nibham Adhyushta Valayam. Adhyushta is 1.5. Valaya is rounds. So she coils back into 1.5 rounds, and Swam Atmanam Kritva. She turns her entire energy back like a serpent into 1.5. She coils up 1.5 times. And Kula Kunde Kuharini. Kuharini is a small furrow or a cave. Just as a snake would enter back into its, you could say a furrow, into that, which is the basically the Kula Kunda, that well where the entire energy is residing in a latent form. It is called the Kula Kunda. Kunda is literally a pond. So a pond of energy. Kula Kunde Kuharini Tvam Atmanam Swam Adhyushta Valayam Kritva. You coil back like a spring, bring it back into its potential form, into potential energy, and Swapishi, you become dormant, you become latent, you go to a sleep. This is the entire journey of the Kundalini, rising through the chakras, experiencing Ananda, and then coming back to become dormant. This is basically the process of how a yogi or a yogini, whatever be the case, would experience uh, within himself or herself during a state of samadhi, is what the tantras say. While going into samadhi, one must devolve, one must fold back all the distractions and rise up the energy. That is basically concentrate the mind into something which is higher. And after the samadhi is over, the mind will gradually start evolving back from the higher tattva through all these elements and becoming from the subtle, it becomes little grosser and grosser and grosser till it comes back to its original bhumi, its taurmane, its mother's house, which is basically this mundane awareness that we always are in, this jagrat. So a lot of meaning, both Vedantic as well as yogic truths, are hidden in such verses too. And once I was reading this Taittiriya, and it just struck to me that the process of cosmogony, which is elaborated there in the Taittiriya, is really well fitting this model. Let me just remember that verse. Can anybody remind me of that second Valli, Brahmananda Valli? It comes Bahusyam Prajayayeti, and Atmanah Akashas Sambhutah. So that being which was vast first created the Atma. It first created the soul, so to speak, which is basically the Manas. Atmana Akashas Sambhutah Akashad Vayuhu. If you remember, where was Akasha? It was in the Vishuddhi Chakra, correct? At the throat. First was Manas, there is Atma, and then at the throat was Vishuddhi, which was space. Akashad Vayuhu, Vayor Agnihi. So then came Vayu, which is heart, Anahata. Then Vayor Agnihi, which was Manipura. Agner Apaha. Apa is Swadhisthana, water. Adhyaf Prithvi, and from water it came, earth was manifested. It was quite puzzling to me, how can earth come after water? How can the creation of earth happen after water? But with this framework in mind, it really makes perfect sense that they're not actually talking about the physical earth coming from water, but the flow of energy down the spine, down the meru. Prithivya Oshadhayaha, and then this Prithvi turned into the Oshadhayaha, that is all the nerve endings which emanate from the base of the spine. Oshadhayaha, Oshadhibhyo, Annam, and those nerves, those nadis will, which are, percolating every part of the body, will help it develop Annam. It will help it put on mass, some muscle mass and skeletal mass and so on. Annat Purushaha, and so is the creation of this human body, this human being. Annat Purushaha, and so the Upanishad continues. Now, this is really, I don't know if you're able to appreciate how different fields of spiritual adhyatma can actually all, be interconnected.
सत्यम्
Hmm.
अत्र मम एकं प्रश्नमस्ति
Hmm.
भवान् उक्तवान् खलु प्रथमं कुण्डलिनी उपरि गच्छति
Hmm.
तदनन्तरं यदा उपरि गच्छति तदा ग्रन्थिं भेदयति
Hmm.
तानि so granthi means not right
Satyam.
as Kundalini raises up, it is breaking all those knots.
Hmm.
When she goes back down to the knots that form back.
Yeah, good question. Kintu aham na janami, but we can refer to the what Lalita Sahasranama says about it. Yeah, you are right in saying that there are the three knots. मूलाधारैकनिलया ब्रह्मग्रन्थिविभेदिनी मणिपूरान्तरुदिता विष्णुग्रन्थिविभेदिनी आज्ञाचक्रान्तरालस्था रुद्रग्रन्थिविभेदिनी सहस्राराम्बुजारूढा सुधासाराभिवर्षिणी is what exactly a few verses here which I'm not able to find right now, but yeah, they mention once after the knots have been cut asunder, rendered asunder, I am not sure if they actually form it back. Because uh, very similar verse also occurs in the Upanishad. What is that? Bhidyate hridaya granthischhidyante sarva samshayaha kshiyante chasya karmani tasmin drishte paravare. So as she is seeing the paravara, as she looks at the paravara, which means that which is beyond the shore, which is beyond the current shore, which means the other side of the ocean. Paravara. Tasmin drishte paravare. What happens? Vidyate hridaya granthi. All the granthis, like you're rightly saying, will get cut. And chidyante sarva samshayaha. And at the mental level, at the intellectual level, all fundamental existential crises and questions get resolved. Not resolved, actually the questions will disappear. Sarva samshayaha. Kshiyante chasya karmani. And at the level of the body, all karma will cease. Kshiyante chasya karmani tasmin drishte paravare. But it doesn't, I have not ever found, at least in my limited knowledge, what happens after she comes down. Will the knots get found back again? I'm not sure. Anybody else who knows here can definitely pitch in.
I think the meditation doesn't continue,
Hmm.
and if that being in that state doesn't continue, then definitely they'll get formed.
Hmm.
You have to keep on. It's a process after all.
Satyam.
Just like night, dark, coming, going, life, death, etc.
Sadhu.
But this is supposed to be the ultimate thing, right?
Sorry?
It is supposed to be the ultimate thing, right?
Hmm.
No, if even in that ultimate, there should be continuity, no? So if you stop doing what you're doing, definitely the results will be different. Then there's pranaya,
Hmm.
is what I think. Because ultimate, in that sense, over here, though, it is not there. Here also, Jivan Muktas are ones who are always practicing. That's why they tend to keep on practicing, no? Because the minute you stop, there is a there is
Mahamaya prayachati punaha.
satyam.
Satyam. Jnaninaamapi chetamsi devi bhagavati hi sa balad akrishya mohaya mahamaya prayachati. Satyam. So ultimately, she can even if a person is a jnani, or this in this case, this when whose Kundalini has been awakened to reach the Sahasrara, still when it is her will that she wants to come back to her mother's home. So when she comes back to her mother's home, maybe she will lock back all those chakras and the granthis, and therefore causing again Maya in the body as well.
Maya and Mahamoha.
Mahamoha.
Mahamudhatva.
Satyam. But at the same time, Sri Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita also says that, so that ultimate thing is yadgatva ninivartante tadhama paramam mama. So he does say that truly, if one has finally come to that state of realization or whatever, Godhood, reached Krishna in whatever sense we want to think of it, then there is no coming back. Then there will be no going and coming. Gamagamam na bhavati iti. But that, I mean, the Shastra, again, this Viveka Chudamani and the other scriptures do say happens only with Videha Mukti, also called Videha Kaivalyam, where necessarily the Jiva has to drop the body completely to reach that pinnacle of realization, of pinnacle of liberation. So in that sense, then there will be no forming of the knot back again.
Yeah, that is beyond the body.
Mm.
In fact. अस्तु अस्तु वदतु महोदय.
Arya vadatu.
I'm sorry.
No, चिन्ता नास्ति अभवत्.
Astu. So now that we have seen how Devi manifests as the Kundalini, we are now moving to the next form. So we have seen the Tattva, which is Kundalini, and now the Yantra form of it. How does she manifest as the Yantra? So, of course, as all of you already know, the Yantra form of Lalita Tripura Sundari is the Shri Chakra. And the Shri Chakra, if you're able to see the board, okay, this has a lot of ads. This is the yantra, which is the Shri Yantra, or also called as Shri Chakra. The following verse describes it. Chaturbhish Shri Kanthai Shiva Yuvatibhih Panchabhirapi Prabhinnabhish Shambhor Navabhirapi Mula Prakritibhihi चतुश्चत्वारिंशद्वसुदलकलाश्रत्रिवलयत्रिरेखाभिः सार्धं तव शरणकोणाः परिणताः चतुर्भिः श्रीकण्ठैः चतुर्भिः is four. Shrikantha is Shiva. So there are four triangles which are facing up, because a triangle which is facing up is said to be a representation of Urdhvareta, which is Shrikanta, that is Shiva. So there are four such triangles facing up. Shiva Yuvati Bhihi Pancha. And there are five triangles which are facing down, which is basically the Shiva Yuvati. Shiva Yuvati means the spouse or GF, girlfriend of Shiva, which is Parvati, and Shakti has five downward facing triangles, which represents the yoni. So always the female Shakti is represented by a downward facing triangle representing the yoni, whereas the Urdhva Retas is represented by an upward facing triangle, which is Shiva. So Shiva and Shakti, the Linga and the yoni, the 4 masculine tattvas and the 5 feminine tattvas. The 4 masculine are what? Manaha, Buddhi, Chitta, Ahankara. So these are said to be the Antahkarana Chatushtaya. And the 5 downward facing are, of course, the elements, the Pancha Bhuta, which we have already seen, which correspond to respective Pancha Jnanendriya and the Pancha Karmendriyas. So Bhumi, Apaha, Tejaha, Vayu, Akashaha. These are the Prakritis. These are parts of the nature which are Shakti. Panchabhirapi, Prabhinnabhihi. So they are overlaid. Prabhinnabhihi, Shambhoho, Navabhihi, Api Mula Prakritibihi. And then Prabhinna means they have been diversified further down to represent the Mula Prakriti and Shambhu, to represent the Tattva of Shambhu, which is Shiva, of the Purusha and the Prakriti. And they have been overlaid in a particular manner. And what that manner is, we shall see later on. Chatushchatvarimshat, 44. Chatushchatvarimshat. Vasu is 8. Vasu Dala, 8 Dala, Ashtadala. Kala, how many kalas are there? Shodasha kalas. Kala Ashra. Ashra is, sides. Kala Ashra. 3 Valaya, and then there are 3 rounds. 3 Valaya. And then 3 Rekhabhihi, and then there are 3 Rekhas. The 3 lines. Trirekhabhihi. Sardham. Sardham means, now there is a Pathantara, it is Sartham is what the Pathantara is. It has become Sartham, which means it has become with meaning. That is, your Tattva has gained a more meaningful, more concrete form, Sartham. Or Sardham is Tava Sharana Konaha Parinataha Sardham. So they have Trirekhabhi Sardham in Samskritam. Sardham can also mean Saha. Sakam, Sardham, Saha mean all the same, along with. So along with the 3 Rekhas is another meaning. And the third meaning is Sa Ardham. Ardhena Saha means along with your other better half, which is Shiva, or Shiva along with his better half, which is Shakti. Tava Sharana Konaha. All these konas, these corners or these edges, Parinataha, these have been established. These have attained fulfillment by your presence at these symbolic points. So let's look at the diagram back now and understand it better. So at the very center is the Kendra, also called the Bindu, which is where Shiva Shakti Aikya Rupini, where the Shiva and Shakti completely merge into oneness. That is the Bindu, the singularity. Apart from that, if you look carefully, there are the 5 downward facing triangles. I'm drawing it and highlighting it in pink. These are the 5 downward facing triangles which represent Mula Prakriti or Shakti. And then the 4 upward facing triangles which represents Shiva. Let me draw that in blue. 1, 2, 3, and I may have missed on this one. 4. So there are 4 triangles which represent Shambhu, the Purusha, Manaha, Buddhi, Ahankara, Chitta. Why are these the Purushas? Because they are closest to consciousness, right? When I say I, most people will say it is the Manas. We are talking about the Manas, which is the summation of all the memory, which is Chitta, the summation of all the flow of thoughts, which is Manas, the summation of all intellectual and awareness, which is Buddhi, and the summation of all identities, which is Ahankara. So this is what which is what encapsulates the identity of a person. That is the consciousness which we tend to do vyavahara with, which is the Purusha. Whereas we kind of know that I am not the body because we are able to feel it, we are able to view it as an object. We are able to objectify our sense organs, we are able to objectify our body, we are able to objectify the different organs in the body and the outside world, which are basically the Pancha Bhutas. Therefore, it is called Prapancha. So, to that extent, because it is an object of experience, it is said to be Prakriti. Whereas the subject of experience, the subject who is the experiencer is the Mana, Buddhi, Chitta, and Ahankara. Therefore, representing Shambhu. And now, these 9 tattvas are within. And then what does it say? Chaturbhi Shri Kantaihi Shiva Yuvatibhif Panchabhirapi Prabhinnabhi. They have been overlaid in a certain manner. Prabhinnabhi Shambhor Navabhirapi Mula Prakriti. And these 9 together signify the Mula Prakriti. Mula means the source and Prakriti is the nature. Mula Prakriti. Chatushchatvarimshat. And these particular way of overlay has created points which are 44. Chatushchatvarimshat Vasudala, and the 8 petaled lotus is outside. Vasudala representing the Ashtadik or the Ashtadik Palakas. Indra, Agni, Yama, Nirriti, Varuna, Vayu, Soma, and Ishana, representing the 8 cardinal directions of space. Vasudala, Kala. Kala is 16. So then there's the 16 petaled lotus. Kala. Ashra, which means again a boundary. Trivalaya, there are the 3 rounds, the 3 circles, concentric circles, Trivalaya. And then 3 Rekhabhihi, and then the outer square is formed by 3 lines which are going around it as an ashra, as a chaturashra, which represent the Bhupura Chakra. So Trirekhabhihi Sardham Tava Sharana Konaha. And these are the points which has led you to get fixed at particular energies, making it your Sharana. Your Sharana means a dwelling place. Tava Sharana Konaha. At these corners of your house, you are actually dwelling. Tava Sharana Konaha Parinata. And because you are dwelling in it, it has attained fulfillment. Parinati, it means fulfillment. Parinataha. So the story goes on to say that one day, Adi Shankaracharya wanted to enter the Meenakshi temple, and it was late at night. And in those days, Meenakshi was not really a Saumya Devata. She was an Ugra Devata. She used to take bali of the people around itself as her Naivedyam. And so what happened was, Adi Shankaracharya was just passing by and he felt a need, an urge to have the darshana of Meenakshi. So he does come and he comes into the temple, and to his amazement, he actually is able to see Meenakshi in her Raudra form, ever ready to take the Narabali. She says, I'm going now that the prey himself has presented himself before me. I don't even have to put in any effort. I'm just going to consume you. He says, all right, let me, you being a mother, I know you will never consume your own son. Kuputro jayeta kochadapi kumata na bhavati. But still, I would be blessed if you are able to eat me and consume me because I will get to be a part of yourself. So she is quite taken aback. How is this young man not even really afraid of his own life? And then the story goes to say that Adi Shankaracharya says, okay, you can take me as your Narabali. However, there is one condition. As the last wish for her, for a dying person, you should grant me the opportunity to be able to play with you. She's once again wonderstruck. He wants to play at his hour of death, but still she conquers and says, "Okay, let us play. What do you want to play?" He says, "Okay, let me play a game of dice, chaturanga, maybe something like chaturanga." She agrees. She comes and she sits. He also sits. The condition he lays is, now I have learned some parts of Sankhya Shastra and some numerology I have learned. So you should allow me and you should permit me to draw a certain diagram and a few figures from time to time on this ground, in this temple itself where you're sitting. She doesn't realize it much. She doesn't, of course, she knows everything, but she's at least pretending that she doesn't know anything. And she says, "Okay, yeah, I can sure go ahead and do whatever you want. I'm anyway going to win." And the pandya, the stake is that the bet is that if I win, I will definitely consume you. And if you win, you're free to go. I will not take you as my Narabali. He agrees. And then uh, he also puts another condition that if I win, not only should you let me go, but also you should give me the rahasya of your tattva. She agrees, "Okay, okay, let's see. Anyway, it's not going to happen. So let's not discuss of a possible case, which is really impossible. I'm anyway going to win." She just brushes it aside and just says, "All right." They start the game. And one after the other, she starts, in Kannada we say, Kai Hand Maradu. She is bringing a particular pawn and, giving it Kritakrityata. She is giving it Sapalya. One after the other, and as she keeps playing this die, at each turn of Adi Shankara's, he goes onto the ground and draws a few rekhas here and there. She doesn't realize it. She just continues the game. And now, after let's say 30 minutes, the game is over. She has won the game. Meenakshi has won the game. And now she is really happy and she says, now you must keep your word. I'm going to consume you as my prey. He says, that is true, but for consuming me, you should first of all get up from your seat. Must you not? So you must get up from your seat. I am ever ready. I'm going to sit here, and I'm really glad that I get to be a part of your deha. Please do come and do bhakshana. She tries to get up, but she's not. She's unable to. She sees that the what is it, Padmasana she was sitting in. She's not able to even get up from that particular asana. She looks at Sundaresha, which is Shiva, sitting right there. "What is this, Swami?" she asks. He says, "Now you were playing dice with me all this while, and you used to always win. And now, because of your pride that you have won each and every time with your spouse, you played with the same pride, even with your son. But with your pride, you failed to notice one thing, that the rekhas that he was drawing is actually a bandhana yantra. It is actually a yantra which captures divine energies, which captures even gods. So, because with your haughty personality and because you were Madaghurnita Raktakshi, because you consume alcohol and you were eating the Narabali, your mind was not able to really notice in this moment of tamas what actually was happening around you. And so now you can't help it. And I can't help it because I have myself made all these Sankhya Shastra and the Tantras. So I have to keep my word, therefore I can't make an exception for you. And so I can't wipe out this yantra. So now you are bound and baddha to this yantra. I can't help you. Meenakshi says, "Oh my God, this can't be possible, because if people were to see me in this position of mine, in the situation of mine, the next morning when people are coming to worship me, I'll feel really embarrassed that this erstwhile Narabhakshaki Meenakshi is now, just caught up like some docile domestic wife. She doesn't like it. So then she says, just quickly release me from this yantra. Adi Shankaracharya bows down and he says, surely, mother, I shall definitely release you. But all the Ghora Aksharas, all the Ghora personalities of yours must first be given up for this yantra to be unlocked. So will you agree to do that? Now she realizes the true intent behind which Adi Shankara made his entrance into the Meenakshi, the temple. And now she laughs and she actually admires his Naipunya of both the Sankhya Shastra as well as of Vedanta, and his fearlessness with which he was playing with Amba. And to bless him, she looks at Sundaresha and he also smiles in accordance. And she says, all right, from today onwards, I shall give up my Ghora Aksharas. I shall give up all the streak of my personality which have to do with tamas. And so, with that promise, she gives up all the Ghora Aksharas. She turns into a very Rajas Sattvic Devata, which helps her get up from the yantra and go back into the idol. So this is the entire story of how the Sri Chakra came to be. That basic yantra which he drew around Meenakshi is the very yantra that we till date use as the Sri Chakra or the Sri Vidya yantra. And why I mentioned this story was because how the word Sharana Konaha, the binding points of these of this chakra of this yantra become the places of her dwelling. So Sharana Konaha Parinataha. So each of these figures of these geometric diagrams have a special meaning to them, not only figuratively, but also it is said to be in accordance with symmetry and some I don't know, some cosmological secrets must be hidden behind this yantra too. This is the story of Sri Vidya. Would anybody like to comment or remark or ask any doubts?
अहं श्रुतवान् एव माता एव श्रीचक्रमेव माता इति तर्हि कथम् अयं कथा तत्र समुच्यते
एषा तु कथा एव कथं श्रीचक्रम् उत्पन्नमिति, किन्तु श्रीचक्रयन्त्रस्य यथा उक्तं चतुर्भिः श्रीकण्ठैः शिवयुवतिभिः पञ्चभिरपि, it is capturing the aspects of both Mula Prakriti as well as of Shambhu, of consciousness and of the Jagat, of Jiva and Jagat. Both are captured. The Kshara and Akshara, as it comes in the 15th Adhyaya of Bhagavad Gita, both the Kutastha as well as the Kshara, both are captured in the Sri Chakra Yantra. Yes, the yantra we are worshipping itself is therefore a manifestation of Devi itself. And how exactly, I am not sure, but as per this shloka at least, the chakra, the yantra is said to be the house, the Sharana, the house of Devi. Did it answer your question? Was that your question? Shamyata, may I not have answered your question?
Kind of. This is that अभेदम् उच्यते श्रीचक्रस्य च अम्बा तयोः भेदः अस्ति यदि गृहमस्ति
यन्त्ररूपा Mahayantra, Mahamantra, Mahatantra, Mahasana, again from the Lita Sahasranama. So she is, yes, she is called the Mahayantra. She is the Yantra herself too. Yes, and she is also the Tantra, all the technique used to worship her. She is the Mahatantra. We say usually that the path of spirituality, the destination is at every step of the journey. So something like that. So she is both the process as well as the goal. She is both the journey as well as the destination. So she is the Tantra, she is the Yantra, and she is the Mantra, which is the Sri Vidya Mantra too.
धन्यवादः
धन्यवादः। अन्ये केचन अभिप्रायितुमिच्छन्ति किम्? I hope at least that your silence doesn't mean that you either have slept off or are bored. I hope the silence means you are understanding it. Oh, astu.
मौनम् अर्थाङ्गीकारमित्युच्यते.
Uh, Astu, we'll do one last shloka and we can wrap this up. त्वदीयं सौन्दर्यं तुहिनगिरिकन्ये तुलयितुं कवीन्द्राः कल्पन्ते कथमपि विरिञ्चि प्रभृतयः यदालोकौत्सुक्यादमरललनायान्ति मनसा तपोभिर्दुष्प्रापाम् अपि गिरिशसायुज्य पदवीम्। हे तुहिना गिरिकन्ये, tuhina is hima, tuhina is hima, snow, snow mountain is Himalaya. Tuhina giri kanya, kanya is one who is born of the Himalaya, which is Parvati. Hey Parvati, tuhina giri kanye, twadiyam saundaryam tulayitum, to compare tulayitum tava saundaryam, kavindraha kalpante, the best of the poets, Kavindraha Kalpante, they try to imagine. Kathamapi, somehow they try to imagine. Who are these poets? Not humans. Virinchi Prabhratayaha Kavindraha. Brahma and the other gods themselves become the Kavindras. By the way, the interesting derivation of the word Kavi comes from the word, I think we had one guest lecture in ASC2 who said Kabru, which means Kabru Varnane, to describe something which is beyond beyond what we actually see. Kavih Kranta Darshi. So Virinchi, this Brahma is said to be the original Kavi. Of course, Adi Kavi is Valmiki, but the OG Kavi would be Virinchi, that is Brahma, because he, just as a poet or a poetess, would create an entire world, a fictional world, just through words, just through thought. Virinchi, that is Brahma, created this entire actual world itself through his own thought and words. So that is the Hiranyagarbha Rupena, Prajapati Rupena. Sarvamapi idam jagat kevalam pranava matrena eva, shabda matrena eva asarjat. Apicha tasya, we say, this mind is, this world is a brainchild, so to speak, of Brahma. So it's quite literally the brainchild because he only thought of it and it manifested. This is actually used as one of the arguments for idealism, where the Buddhas actually say the world doesn't exist apart from the mind. Just as a person thinks, so the world behaves, or so the world manifests. So, of a person with no mind, of a person without the mental faculty, then their argument, their philosophical position is that there would be no world as well. So that is a very idealistic way of.
There is an Advaitic counter to that worldview. Is if somebody has no mind and they come back and they say that they had no mind state, who was observing the no mind state? अतः अद्वैतं सिद्धमिति.
Satyam. So who is the Sakshi to that? How do we know that there was a no mind state? Correct.
Exactly.
So anyway, coming back to this, Virinchi, this is Prajapati, he is the Kavindraha. He is the best of the poets, and they kalpante, and through his sheer just imagine the imaginary strength of Brahma to have gone into such nuance, such great detail that he was able to think of to create all these elements, 118 elements, and all the forces of nature and all the laws and so on. So with such extraordinary imaginary faculties, he tries to imagine the beauty to compare, just as a poet would try to imagine something else to compare an actual object in the sense of an upama, of a simile, a metaphor, and so on. They try to think, they try hard. Kathamapi kalpante, they try really hard to imagine of an upama to compare your true beauty. And the implication, the dhwani is that they are not able to find any, because even Brahma is struggling to find the right metaphor or the right simile to compare your beauty. Yat aloka outsukyaat amara lalanaha manasa yanti tapobhihi Girisha Sayujya Padavim Dushprapam Api. So Yata Aloka Outsukyat, to witness or to behold which beauty, to behold that beauty, Outsukyat, out of curiosity as well as out of enthusiasm, out of great longing to to have a part of such beauty. Amara Lalanaha, the Deva Kanyaha, which are, Rambha, Urvashi, Menaka, Tilottama, and all the other Gandharva Kanyas and the Apsara Kanyas. Amara Lalanaha, Lalana means a Kanya, Kanyaha, Yanti, they come rushing towards you. Manasa Tapobhihi Dushprapam, and they come to witness you, to behold you, but you in fact are dushprapa. You are very hard to be found, you are very hard to be obtained or attained. How? Manasa tapobhi api, even performing a lot of tapasya with their minds, still you are unable to be seen for even the Amara Lalanaha, even for the Deva Kanyaha. Yet they somehow try to come and have the padavi, have the darshana, have the position to come and watch the position of Girisha Sayujya Padavim. They come close. Now, padavi again is a pun to mean an actual position, an actual place, a location, or it could also mean a padavi as in a status or a metaphorical position, a position of being in Sayujya with Girisha. Girisha is who? Is Shiva. Giri yaha shete, girau yaha shete saha Girishaha. Girisha Sayujya Padavim Tvam, you who are the literal embodiment of being in the state of Sayujya with Shiva. So you are basically Samadhi itself. You who are the personification of Samadhi, who are also Manasa Tapobhi Dushprapa, you who are very hard to be attained even through tapasya. Even Sri Krishna says, right, in the 11th chapter, what is that exact words? If any one of you can remind me. Naham vedairna tapasa na danena na chejyaya shakya evam vidho drashtum drishtavanasi mam yatha bhaktya tvananyaya shakyo ahamevam vidhorjuna jnatum drashtum cha tatvena praveshtum cha parantapa. So, not through Vedas, not through Adhyayana, not through Dana, not through Karma will I ever be able, and not even through Tapasya, will anyone be able to behold my Rupa. Only through Ananya Bhakti alone one gets an opportunity to see me. That is verily how he describes his own Vishwarupa. Similarly, Manasa Tapobhihi Api Dushprapam, she who cannot even be easily attained through tapasya, not performed by mortals, by Deva Kanyaha who are performing the tapasya. Why are they performing tapasya? Yat aloka outsukya. They wish to have the darshana of such beauty of yours, which even the Brahma and the other greatest of poets are unable to think of. So they are kind of also jealous that, how can there be such an entity in this universe who our father Virinchi itself is unable to imagine and to find a suitable metaphor or a suitable upama to compare whose beauty. So they they want to come and actually see you, who are the literal manifestation of the state of being in samadhi, of sayujya with Shiva. Girisha sayujya padavim tvam manasa api tapobhihi api dushprapam tvam aloka autsukyat amaralalanaha yanti. So we see a queue before your palace at your entrance of all the Devakanyas and eagerly anticipating and awaiting to have your darshana, even though they have done so much of tapasya with their minds. And why do they want to have your tapasya? Who are you? Because why are you dushprapa? Because having savajya with Shiva itself is dushprapa. It is really difficult, very hard. And so you who are that state of being in samadhi with Shiva, it's really hard to, uh, that Soundarya of yours is really hard to come by. It's really hard to even compare with. All in all, basically, the state of samadhi, the state of union with God itself is said to be the most beautiful phenomenon ever. That's the summary of this verse.
I have a doubt here.
Mm.
Please forgive my ignorance.
Mm.
In Lalita Sahasranama, we have Antarmukha Samaradhya Bahirmukha Sudurlabha. परन्तु अत्र उच्यन्ते एते ललनाः तपस्यां कृतवन्तः तदापि दर्शनं प्राप्तुं न शक्ताः इति परन्तु that is directly going against the verse.
Satyam. So there are quite a few contradictions in the Lalita Sahasranama. For example, Durlabha Durgama Durga Dukkahantri Sukhaprada. She is also Durlabha. Though it is not impossible, she is Dushprapa. She cannot be attained easily. Her name itself is Durga. She cannot be approached really easily. So she is Dushprapa in that way. Yes, the possibility still exists. It's not impossible, it is plausible that a person would attain to her.
Antarmukha Samaradhya खलु
Satyam.
बहिर्मुख सुदुर्लभा तत्तु अहम् अङ्गीकरोमि अत्र दुर्लभा इत्युक्ते कदा बहिर्मुखे दुर्लभा इति
Antarmukha Samaradhya. Interesting. Yes. Antarmukha Samaradhya Bahirmukha Sudar. Let me just try to find the answer to that if there is any from the Lalita Sahasranama itself. Yeah, see, for example, the word Mano Vacham Agochara also is quite contradictory because with Manas also we perform all tapasya, aradhana, antarmukha aradhana, etc. Still, she is Agochara even to the Manas and the Vak. And so maybe something like that. So, yeah, there are such contradictions. How exactly one must resolve these and reconcile, it's quite hard to say.
Shomita,
वदतु वदतु
I think the bottom line is that unless her grace is there, whether you are Bahimukhi or Antarmukhi, it cannot happen. Unless her grace is there. Her stroke is.
परन्तु अस्माकं सिद्धान्तः अद्वैतः खलु द्वैतमेव नास्ति सा अहं द्वौ नैव सा एव अहं तर्हि तस्याः करुणा अथवा तस्याः अनुग्रहः इति कथं how do we reconcile this again?
So yes, there are quite a few verses here which talk about her in an Advaitic sense, like you rightly said, Nirdvaita, Advaita Varjita, Brahmatmaki Swarupini, Sadasadrupadharini, and all that. But at the same time, there are also verses which talk of her in a Dvaita Bhava, where she is the Ishvara, she is the Ishwari, and we are to do puja to her, Uh, for example, how else would we, uh, you know, accept this position of she being dhyana gamya? If she, see this verse here says dhyana gamya. Dhyana gamya means she can be understood through meditation. And for that to happen, I mean, there must be a possible Dvaita Bhava between the Bhakta or whoever the doer of the meditation and the goal of meditation, which is in this case Devi. Yes, but once again, I mean, it's very hard to understand, at least for me, uh, because these texts always talk in both terms, both in terms of homogeneity and at times also in terms of she being the Ishwari and we being servants and so-called children to that mother. At which position of life we are at, maybe, or maybe which state of mind we are in, maybe suitable to that, a particular bhava is chosen. So maybe in a state of samadhi or maybe in some dhyana sthiti, our mind may tend more towards Advaitic flavors. Whereas in a state of being and doing in this, performing and functioning in this mundane world, we would be better yet, looking at her in the form of Ishwari. This is my idea. You please tell me how you would reconcile these two notions.
एवमेव चिन्तयामि साधना किमर्थम् इत्युक्ते चित्तशुद्ध्यर्थम् after the chitta is shuddha, we are able to directly see the reality as it is. And thus she is dhyana gamya in the sense that by the end of dhyana, by the time one has done all the chitta shuddha, we have attained her in the form of Vishwarupa Darshana, or in the form of directly looking at the reality for what exactly it is. In the sense that you are able to see that it's all Maya. That's how I would say. But I am no expert.
Anybody else would like to answer this question? Very interesting question.
Actually, there is one particular incident that happens with Kalidasa. And Kalidasa asks, Oham. And she says, Tvamevaham, Tvamevaham, Tvamevaham. You are me. That's what she says. So, what comes to mind?
Right. Very true. I mean, of course, Ramakrishna Paramahamsa also, the very famous story of how he seeks mother's permission itself to first go, before going into actually Advaita sadhana of initiation by the Totapuri Swami. So, this Saguna and Nirguna aspects, it has been a millennium debate, right? This debate of whether Ishvara is Nirguna or Saguna, or if which is the satya, is Vyavahara the satya or the Paramarthika the satya, etc. All of these debates have been happening, and the source of all these debates is verily such texts, because they talk of the same thing in both the fashion, both with the Jiva and Jagat and the Ishvara being separate, as well as, like you rightly said, in such an instance where you're saying Tvamevaham, etc., where all of them have merged into one.
I think maybe we can reconcile it this way, that because there are different types of people that are able to read the text. The Rishi that is writing it in all kinds of forms, where one thing will be attractive to one particular person because of his Rishi, while somebody else might find something else interesting. So, regardless of what it is, it's all mother, right? So, maybe in order to attract or to make jhana easier, all these different kinds of things are pratipadita. And ultimately, what is more important for human beings is to fix on something and then do chitta shuddhi.
Satya. यो यो यां यां तनुं भक्तः श्रद्धयार्चितुमिच्छति तस्य तस्याचलां श्रद्धां तामेव विदधाम्यहम्. I mean, no, Arjuna himself asks whether avyakta sadhana or vyakta sadhana, whether with form, without form, which form, etc. I mean, those questions have been running, right? It is according to our taste, ultimately, like you said. Astu, let's stop here. We shall continue in the next class. Aneke dhanyawadaha. Namo namaha. Namaskara.